and all the cities have now gone. Restless hearts and minds are moving on. Baby, take the best escape for